Hi, I'm Randy Berry with Eagle Vistas. We train ag pilots from zero time or professional pilots that need recurrent training for some reason, or just to sharpen the saw, or turbine transitions, and we also do consulting services. I've compiled a little group of videos here I'm hoping to see in the series of little questions that are commonly asked. So I kind of call it everything you want to know about crop dusting but we're afraid to ask. So one of the controversial topics, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on it because I have a letter that I'll refer you to that goes much more detail, is that why do we, and this is my own personal opinion and opinion of the school, why do we not recommend that people go straight to a turbine airplane initially from zero time ag? They may have 10,000 hours flying turbines in King Airs at 10,000 feet, whatever, but I'm talking about in agriculture only. It's not the difficulty or the complexity of the turbine engine. The turbine engine is probably one of the most amazing inventions in the last 50 years or 100 years of history, and it's definitely made a big difference in aviation. However, ag aviation is a completely different situation because we are flying at a much lower speed. I guess the best way I could explain it would be, don't think that ag aviation are jet airplanes flying very slow close to the ground. Think of ag aviation as tractors that are flying very, very fast, very close to the ground, or very high. You know what I'm saying? It's very high. It's a whole different concept here that works, and the perceptions are much different. The biggest concept of the turbine is speed. That's the trick, the ferry speed, so they don't have to spend so much time going from field to field, so they can get there and start working. It makes them more efficient. But whenever you're faster, remember, just like driving your automobile, are you more comfortable driving at 40 miles an hour or 110 miles an hour? Well, you say 110 miles an hour, I'll drive that on I-95, that's right. But would you drive that 110 miles an hour downtown a residential street? No, right? Not for a while anyway. Maybe you could if you knew that no one was going to come and into that thing and no kid was going to dart out with a board or something. But it would be very unsafe and you would be very unwise to do it. Same thing. Think of it in that respect. I think it's a good parallel. Remember that your brain has got to acclimate to any kind of condition, just like your body has to acclimate when you jump into cold water. It takes a little while for you to get used to it and you warm up, okay? Well, that's what your brain has to do that also. I mentioned on a previous thing about the thing with Geico commercial with Mario Andretti driving and the comfort level that he had versus this guy that was sitting in the back screaming and yelling. But think about it kind of, if you remember many, many years ago, the younger guys probably don't, but you can understand the concept. We used to have video games called Asteroids. And in this thing, they would have these asteroids be coming at you, and you had a controller on a video game, and as these things came at you, you were supposed to shoot the red ones, but not the blue ones. And it would start off slow, and they'd always ask you, do you want to go beginner, intermediate, or advanced? Well, if you were smart, you would always go to this. Sometimes I ask some of my younger students, I said, well, if you had a deal like this, would you go beginner, intermediate, or advanced? They said, well, I'd go to beginner because I've never played it before and I'd want to learn how to do it. I said, that's right, that's very important. Why wouldn't you go to advanced? He said, because hell, I'd get killed and I only have 3 lives. That's right, for that game. But in this world, we only have 1. And that's why I'm so important about talking about this thing. Remember, you're supposed to shoot the red ones, but not the blue ones. And it starts off slow. When it's slow, it's real easy. Boop, boop, boop. No problem. But then it starts speeding up and speeding up and speeding up until your brain, because it hasn't acclimated to this game, and you haven't practiced this game, starts going faster and faster. Then you are going to start missing some of these red ones, aren't you? Because they're coming at you too fast. You hit your capacity of your existing level of comfort in this thing. But the more you play it, the higher your score gets, the faster you can achieve these things. This is the concept also. If you look on a website, which is eaglevistas.com, I forget which page it is, but there's a statement there. There's an actual, on page 1 I think it is, newsletter that I wrote in much more detail, especially for corporate type or airline people that are retiring or thinking about getting into ag aviation, and it is entitled, "Why Should I, as a commercial pilot with thousands of hours, need to go to ag school when I already know how to fly?" Okay? And I can understand their concepts. However, what they don't understand is that it is so different. And I like to use a comparison a lot, like, okay, something we're all common with is doctors. Doctors is a term, just like pilot is a term for everybody that's in that particular field. However, in doctors, you have general practitioners, you have surgeons, you have brain surgeons, neurosurgeons, you know, then you have podiatrists, you have every organ, internal organs, everything else, okay? Same thing in flying. You have airline pilots, corporate pilots, bush pilots, glider pilots, banner towing pilots, ag pilots, air taxi pilots, everything else. And each one has their own specifics. They're all still pilots. But would you want a proctologist to do brain surgery on you? I don't think so. So the same concept's involved here, that you have to acclimate your brain in a slower, more comfortable position to be able to accept. If you are so uptight and anxious at 100%, and you can do it, and everything's fine. See, I told you I could do it. That's right. But what is your capacity on top of that? Is there anything left for something unexpected to come in? Okay, that emergency. Or what about this? Once again, this thing gets faster. You miss that red asteroid this time, that time. Well, guess what? The faster that goes, the more you're going to start missing. And those red asteroids don't necessarily are asteroids. They represent power lines. They represent snags, widowmakers, windmills, meteorological towers, many, many different things that are in this environment that you have never had to deal with. In fact, a very interesting thing, and this is not derogatory in any way, because you are professionals, if you are a corporate pilot or an airline pilot, in your own field, just much as I am in my own field. But remember that when you put yourself into a situation where you are so overloaded that there is no reserve left, you are in a very dangerous situation. Please read the newsletter. I won't go into a whole lot of detail with it right now, because it is. But just, these are things that you need to consider and talk about, you know, to the operator you might be working for, or yourself to consider, you know, especially if you're thinking about, yeah, well, I've got a 10,000 acre farm, I can get my boy into it, but we'll need a turbine to do all that stuff. Think about it. I wouldn't put my boy in a turbine for first year. There are some exceptions. There are some exceptions. That's why Leland came out with the 504. If you have the ability to let him ride around with you for a year or two and still make him a living and pay for him to do this thing, to ride around with you and acclimate him to that through you, that's great. But most people can't afford to rent a 504 to do their training at $1,500 an hour. You know, so just a lot of things to consider and a lot of things to go. Please read the newsletter. Any questions, I'll be glad to discuss if we ever come a chance. Thanks for watching. Bye.